Hello, and welcome to Just Say No, where we shine a light on cannabis with clarity, curiosity, and a commitment to credible conversation, spotlighting the people and products shaping the legal cannabis movement. I'm your host, Maria Calabrese, and you're listening on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, or wherever you tune in for your podcast. Hey, today we're turning the dial back, people. We're turning it back to all the way back to the 70s, and we're turning into a whole new wave of cannabis curiosity. This time from the generation who helped spark it in the first place. We're calling this episode 50 is the new 420 because baby boomers are blazing a comeback, not out of rebellion, but for relief, restoration, and reconnection. Heck, I'm old enough to remember seeing the first Terminator hit theaters back in 84. Schwarzenegger's I'll be back, right? Became iconic. But by the sixth movie, let's be real, it might as well have been, oh, my aching back. And while some of us, especially today's guests, were too young for Woodstock, we definitely grew up in its glow, where peace, love, and a little puff puff pass set the tone for a new way of thinking. On screen, Cheech and Chong gave us our first glimpse of cannabis through clouds of smoke and punchlines. Back then, it was more of a joke than a wellness prescription. And who remembers the Love Boat, right? Friday nights with the Love Boat, our weekly cruise into escapism, romance, and umbrella drinks. Now, instead of Mai Tais and Captain Stubing, we've got dispensaries, microdosing mints, and bath soaks made from full spectrum CBD. It's not about going back, it's about coming full circle, and this time with intention. And that's exactly why so many of us are coming back to cannabis, not to relive the past, but to reclaim our well being. Before we dive in, let's clear up a little cannabis code. Why 420? The story starts in 1971 with a group of 5 high school friends in San Rafael, California, who called themselves the Waldos. Now, legend has it that every day after school at 420 sharp, they'd meet by a statue of Louis Pasteur, spark one up, and hunt for a rumored hidden cannabis crop. Now, why were they hunting for this and not just growing their own? Hint, hint, spoiler alert, one of the topics of today's show. Rumor has it one of the brothers back in the 70s was a little too paranoid to grow his own. We're going to continue to talk about that in a bit, but they never found the stash. But what they did find was a legacy. Their inside joke became an after school ritual, and with a little help from the Grateful Dead and High Times magazine, 420 became a global code for cannabis culture. Fast forward to today, and cannabis is no longer a secret handshake. It's a symbol of connection, creativity, and community. According to recent research, cannabis use among adults 65 and older has tripled in the past decade, making baby boomers and seniors one of the fastest growing groups of cannabis consumers in the US. As the late, great Carl Sagan once said, cannabis helps produce the serenity and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world. And today, oh, that serenity and insight is growing in backyards, garden beds, and window boxes, thanks to women like my guest. Returning to the show is Penny Barthel, author of The Cannabis Gardener, who's on a mission to bring peace, purpose, and plants back into our homes and routines. Also joining us is Dr. Emily Gogol, founder of Grow It From Home, a scientist turned gardener, making cannabis cultivation as easy and normal as growing tomatoes. We leave the science to her. She's got us covered. We'll explore the healing power of gardening, how older adults are reclaiming cannabis as part of their wellness journey, and why growing your own is one of the most empowering things you can do, no matter your age. So whether you're growing your first seed or lighting your first joint in decades, you're not late to the party. Let me tell you something. You're right on time.
By 2020, Bank of America and Merrill Lynch estimate that will grow to $35 billion. And many experts believe it could eventually reach $200 billion each and every year.
Life and what you give is worth it. When you're holding me, when you hold me so close, someone further in under your skin. Wanna leave a mark so that I can be sure that you remember what's been. I used to be satisfied.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us here on Just Say No. Hey, before we jump into the garden with our guests, I'm going to bring them on their backstage. Let's take a moment to remember where we've been, because the path to legal cannabis, it wasn't paved in pot leaves and good vibes. For many baby boomers, cannabis wasn't just controversial, it was criminal. We grew up under the shadow of reefer madness with its fear-based messaging and cartoonish portrayals of cannabis turning teenagers into monsters. I don't know that they needed cannabis for that, but anyway, then came the war. Then came the war on drugs, launched by the Nixon administration in the 70s, which disproportionately targeted communities of color. It fueled mass incarceration, and it solidified the stigma surrounding this poor plant. But in spite of it all, this plant survived behind closed doors, in garage grow rooms, and tucked inside record sleeves. Cannabis culture lived on in head shops, in secret stashes, in whispers passed between friends. Fast forward to today, and boomers aren't just revisiting cannabis. Let me tell you, they're redefining it. Many are turning to cannabis for plant-based relief from arthritis, chronic pain, anxiety, and sleep disorders, trading in prescriptions for topicals, tinctures, and low-dose edibles. As noted in a recent Emerald magazine article, throughout history, cannabis has powered creativity, resilience, and even royalty. From warriors to wise elders, this plant has always had a place. And that place, it's now on dispensary shelves, in self-care routines, and yes, in beautifully curated backyard gardens. Cannabis today is infused into everything from skincare to sparkling beverages, and it's no longer just about getting high. It's about getting well. Boomers may have entered cannabis culture through rebellion, but they're returning with purpose, intention, and a whole new vibe. And speaking of vibes, let's bring in two women who are just phenomenal, and they're doing their part of this evolution. They're actively cultivating it. So we're going to be talking with Penny Barthel, author of The Cannabis Gardener, and Emily Gogol, founder of Grow From Home, for a grounded and empowering look at how cannabis is changing from the roots up. So Penny, Emily, welcome.
We're
Hey,
so glad.
Maria, thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. We've got so much to discuss. So on the topic of 50 being the new 420, maybe I'm going to start with Emily. Emily, tell me what your first memory of cannabis was.
Yeah, that's great. I'll say I come from California, super liberal family. Everything was discussed and open. And as a consequence, in high school, my experience with cannabis was like, I don't have time for that. That is something my friends do after school, and they go hang out at Taco Bell, and they are wasting their time. I have the SATs to study for, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. They're dopey, and even though they were my friends. And I think that attitude really came from seeing how they use cannabis, and also it not being this illicit thing. It was talked about in my household along with other things, and it was like not a big deal. It was always be safe and be careful who you get into a car with, kind of thing. And that's just how I viewed cannabis. That was kind of my first experiences with the plant. So it really wasn't until much later in life that I rediscovered it for cannabis, for what it can be in many different ways, to help people and to be part of their lives. So I that was my first kind of introduction to cannabis. So.
How about you, Penny? Do you remember your first memory of cannabis?
Oh, I sure do. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, and so for me, cannabis was something that Cheech and Chong did. I thought it was hilarious, but it was very foreign. I was in a pretty straight-laced home, and I knew about these, intriguing people in junior high and high school. We called them stoners, and they would go do stuff. They were sort of, exotic creatures in some respect. I had some interaction with them, but not a whole lot. I tried weed a little bit when I was in high school, but that was sort of it for me. And I got as I've come to cannabis later on in life, it was like a very different experience. I was really confused about why it was. I had these ideas, but all throughout junior high and high school in particular, man, that was just beginning the Reagan era, and the war on drugs was in full force. So it really did a number on my attitude about it. So I'm a little older than Emily, and it was not an open discussion. It was just something that other people did, and it was not a good thing that they did.
Exactly. I'm a little older than. Yep. I'm a little older than you guys, and I'm a recovering Catholic, so none of this was on the table. And I remember those Nixon era days and the Vietnam War protest, and a lot of the making it a Schedule I and a felony was convenient, because then the hippies couldn't vote who were protesting the war, because if it's a felony, you can't vote. Crazy. And it's interesting, though, because your perspectives, they shifted, and you obviously view it very differently now. So how do you see cannabis differently now? What challenges do you think older adults who are indoctrinated with all this stigma face in terms of accessing or understanding today's legal cannabis environment? And Penny, I'd like to start with you and then bring Emily in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is the heart of what I teach with my classes at Wondering About Weed here in the Bay Area. A lot of adults enjoyed cannabis when they were in high school or college in the 70s and 80s, and it was fun and it was just for pleasure. Now they're older, they might have some health concerns, or just they want to try it again, but they don't know what to do because it changed for them. It's come out of this war on drugs. Everybody had the mental construct that cannabis is bad, it's not something to do, but now they want to try it. So the biggest thing, when I was growing up, and those who are a little older than we had a number done on us. We were told stories, and the story was drugs are bad and cannabis is a really bad drug. It's on Schedule I. It wasn't an obvious story. No one actually said those words to me, but I got the message. It was not something good. But now we're having to retrain ourselves with a new message as cannabis comes out of prohibition, and there's these fabulous stores called dispensaries. People have to sort of hold two stories in their heads at the same time. One is cannabis is a terrible drug and it's going to hurt you. And the other is cannabis is a gentle herb and it can really help you. So that's probably, I think, the biggest challenge for older adults is getting rid of the old story and writing a new story about this plant in their heads. I know I had to do that, and my current journey in cannabis was really helping a friend put some cannabis plants in her garden so that she could help a friend of hers who had cancer. And so it was sort of an interesting way for me to re-enter this world of cannabis. I'm glad I did in that regard, and now I fell headlong in love with this plant. And
That's a very powerful why. And we're going to get to the workshops that you teach on growing. Do you think growing your own helps with changing that narrative, introducing people to the plant, backyard gardeners?
Oh, for sure, because it recontextualizes the plant. The plant itself tells its story to me. It says, look at me. I'm not a dangerous, horrible drug that's going to mess up your life. I'm a beautiful plant that grows in your garden. And once you get to know the plant for itself, and then you get to experience the benefits from it, oh, no one needs to tell you another thing. The plant tells you its story. In that regard, it's a wonderful way to learn about cannabis is to grow it.
I'm going to bring Emily in on the topic of growing it because that is definitely her alley. You introduced it to me, Emily. I was fascinated when I met you and knew you as a scientist, but then tell us a little bit about your mission about, kind of the why. Why should people grow it at home?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Marie, there are so many reasons. I'll just say the kind of why of my mission is during my PhD, I helped build public parks and community gardens. So I'm really an urban ag advocate, food access, public green spaces kind of person. And then I moved and started this cannabis farm, and folks from all over the country were getting in touch with me saying, hey, how do I grow this plant? There's so much bad information on the internet. Why is it so unlike gardening anything else? And as a scientist and a backyard gardener and someone who just wants to help people get access, I think it's silly they don't have access. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to help these people. So my why and mission is really to help just people get what they need. I listened to what they need, and people needed seeds that were high quality and produced either CBD or THC or both, and that were quality garden plants. Just like when you grow a San Marzano tomato that you picked up at your local garden shop, when you grow your afternoon punch cannabis plant, you want it to be just as vigorous and healthy. So I started getting people gardening as opposed to worrying about the information on the internet and treating it practically like the plant that it is that belongs in the garden. So that's really my why. And it's just like gardening any other plant. When it comes to the garden, when it comes to the laws, it's a bit different. And when it comes to how it affects your body, it's similar to some plants and different than others. But from a gardening perspective, it's easier than putting in a tomato plant.
Well, I got to tell you, your timing is perfect because we're almost coming into 20 minutes on the show. And on the topic of 50 being the new 420, it'll be 420 here in LA. And at 420, I like to drop a knowledge bomb. We're going to take time to have a little quick hit. So, Emily, I'm going to ask you, is it true? Someone said to me, did you know cannabis is a vegetable? Is that true?
I'm not like a food botanist specialist, but I'll say, tarragon isn't a vegetable. It's an herb, it's a flower, and it's a vegetable. I guess you could say it's all three things, right? If you're cooking the leaves, I know folks that wrap dumplings in the leaves. That kind of makes it a vegetable. I know folks that use it as herbal medicine. They're using it in their teas. They're using it in topicals and oils. Ingesting the flower itself in recipes, that's definitely an herb. And it's 100% a beautiful, or smoking it, it's an herb. And then 100%, it's a beautiful flower. My grandmother, not a recovering Catholic, very much a Catholic, very conservative in many ways. After I started my cannabis farm and she came to visit, she's like, oh, this smells so good. If I wore this to mass, like the priest would love it. Hibiscus and raspberry and nectarines, and I love the smell. Emily, could I get one of these for my patio to smell at night?
Your grandmother was not far off because there are references dating back to the Bible Cana Bossum, the Hebrew root, cana for cannabis, bossum for aromatic. And some people, I think grandmas know, wonder what's in that incense in the church, you know?
Absolutely. It can be like many plants. A rose, like cannabis, has smell, has medicinal use, and you can eat it, right? Cannabis, you can eat it, you can smell it, you can use it medicinally, you can treat it like a vegetable, treat it like an herb, and it's beautiful in your garden. It's really so versatile. So gardening. It's all about the gardening part of it,
It's all about it. And I love your tote bag. It says you grow tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, and hemp.
Yep.
And Penny, well, where do you stand? Vegetable, fruit, herb? What is it?
I'm going to call this a culinary herb. It is also a medicinal herb, and believe it or not, it's sort of a beautiful ornamental plant. I wouldn't call it a vegetable because you don't eat it for nutrition per se, but for health added. There's no calories in it. You're not going to get sugars for anything like that. But I'm going to call it a culinary herb, and it's a medicinal herb. And you know what? There are other culinary herbs, oregano, thyme, that have powerful medicinal properties. They don't get you high, so we don't sometimes in our own lexicon categorize them like that. I love to enjoy eating cannabis. You got to remember that there's very low levels of cannabinoids in the leaves. It's really in the female flower buds is the only place you're going to find the cannabinoids, whether they're in the acid form or not in the flower bud. But here's a hot tip. You can take those little tiny leaves and chop them up real fine in a chiffonade and throw them on the top of like a pasta dish with fish, small amounts. It's going to give it a nice, fresh, slightly bitter herbal flavor. And you will get some health benefits from it from the raw or the acid form of the cannabinoids. Anti-inflammatory, they're going to be pain managing. It's great stuff.
Now, a lot of our listeners who are curious about it and new to cannabis, especially older adults, they remember the really rich kind of skunk smell, and some people don't like that. So if you are having the raw and do what you just suggested, does it have that strong aroma?
No, not at all. So here's another thing that happened. In the 70s, it was completely illegal. So we were getting poor quality, old, oxidized, seedy, weedy cannabis that wasn't fresh. It was being
dirt ditch.
So it's like a very different plant. When you grow it in your garden, you've got these fabulous new cultivars. Emily's part of the forefront of breeders who are breeding for excellence in both scent and cannabinoids, and they're good, strong grain plants. It's a very different plant altogether. It doesn't smell like skunk at all in my garden. The fragrance that I usually detect in my cannabis is it smells like just fresh, sometimes like the ocean, like pine, like lemon, often like like strawberries or rose, and all of the scents sort of mingle together, but there is that sharp, wonderful herbal essence kind of undergirding to all cannabis. But there's a variety.
Nice. And when you talk about the quality and you mention Emily, it's a perfect segue because Emily, I want you to explain to everybody when we come back on our consumer tips and insights about grow it from home in your farm. But we had a wonderful video clip and I'd like to throw to it. So here we go.
So Grow It From Home provides commercial farmers across the country with high CBD flower hemp plants commercially, and we offer the same variety of hemp to you as a backyard gardener as we do our commercial farmers. So you're getting the same tried and true, tested commercial variety hemp plants, but you get to grow them at home as a backyard gardener. So we've already put the years of research and development into making nationally known, it's called craft flower hemp plants, and we're now making them available to you in your backyard. Just like if you were to buy an organically grown broccoli at your local grocery store, these are organically grown, USDA organic certified hemp plants. So we're really proud to be part of that program. We try to be excellent stewards of our land. We're right on the Applegate River in Southern Oregon, so we're very aware of what we're putting into the ground and being good stewards. So we have very precise protocols for how to care for these plants and steward them in the environment that they're grown in so that they are produced organically. I've always loved gardening. Like when I was a little kid, I gardened with my mom as part of my chores as a kid in California in my mom's backyard. So those are my earliest memories as a little kid, having to pull the mitts from underneath the rose bushes. And my mom maintained a big flower garden and vegetable garden. And I just grew up being outdoors with her. And I loved eating the fresh food, and I loved being outside with her and my sister gardening. And when I moved to San Francisco and started grad school to do my PhD at the University of California, San Francisco, during my PhD, I had a great time building public parks and working with the neighborhood to create these green spaces. And when I left San Francisco to come run my farm, I let everyone know why I was leaving. And I have to say, all the little old ladies in the garden were like, wow, Emily, I never thought you'd leave San Francisco to run a pot farm, but tell me more about CBD and about cannabis. We're really curious. And I was just so surprised when everyone came up to me after the announcement and wanted to talk to me about this forbidden fruit. I left San Francisco to start a commercial hemp nursery. And I've been working with farmers for the last few years. And it wasn't until last year I literally got calls from regular gardeners all over the US that found me through my commercial website asking me, hey, could you send me plants? Is this okay? And I was just floored. I never thought I'd be able to work with, backyard gardeners again. And I love being able to help folks with this plant.
So when you receive your plants, they're USDA organic certified. You get a lab result that comes with your plants showing that it's legally classified as hemp. That's part of our requirement actually for shipping plants. And you get a quick start guide. So it's a beautiful 1, 2, 3 quick start guide to help you get started with your plants. And we encourage everyone to share their grow over the season with us on Instagram and Facebook. And in order to come out with better new varieties every year, we maintain a research and development program on the farm. So we're all about trialing, testing, really understanding how to improve the plant for both commercial farmers and for backyard gardeners.
And that is how we describe Grow It From Home. And I love the quick start guide. It's you've got to read Penny's book. There's no replacing that. The book is phenomenal. But when you receive those plants, it's I'm one of those people when I have to put kids toys together before on Christmas Eve. I don't want to read the instructions. I don't want to read a whole book, but you got to read the whole book to get it right. But the quick start guide, you go right to the quick start guide. She really, really gets you feeling confident and like, okay, I could get this plant growing, bringing you guys back. We've explored the why behind cannabis garden and how so many seniors are doing it and they're turning to hemp. So let's dig into the how. So whether you're starting with a seed or a plant, or even just a sunny patio and a little curiosity, I want you guys to give us some trusted tips to help people grow with confidence. So I think we can start with Emily. Emily, what should people look for when they're buying cannabis seeds and plants?
So cannabis seeds, don't be afraid of them, okay? Don't be afraid, everybody. Cannabis seeds. They're like sunflower seeds, broccoli seeds, radish seeds. Size-wise, they're very similar. Here's a little diagram I just did for people in our classes. There's so much misinformation on the internet. Start your cannabis seeds just like your broccoli or your radish. Do not follow no paper towels, no domes, no heat mats. And we have all this information on our website. So the first thing is follow good gardening practices. If you're starting from seed, start them like you would any other quality garden seeds. And Penny's textbook, I call it textbook, but it's our textbook for the class, really. I do really highly recommend Penny's book. It has such fantastic information. It makes a great gift. And it's practical gardening advice that is a little more cannabis specific. But just apply good gardening, which is throughout Penny's book, and you will grow fabulous plants. And then when it comes, in terms of if you don't want to start seeds, you're the kind of person that's like, I buy my plants at the local shop and then I tuck them into the ground. That's totally a possibility. You can order plants from us. I would say there are some caveats to where you order supplies, and I can let Penny chat about that. Our company just works really hard to make sure that you're getting a quality product, that every year, you grow our afternoon punch, you get afternoon punch, and it is a vigorous, super happy, easy to maintain, easy to harvest plant. So my main thing is, like, don't be afraid. They are just seeds. Like all the other seeds you can get at the garden shop. If you buy them from us, they're going to be quality, high germination rate, and afternoon punch gives you afternoon punch every time. Which is a problem in the cannabis industry in terms of quality. So I feel very lucky I can bring quality stuff to gardeners. The same expectations I have when I buy San Marzano tomato seeds, I have for my cannabis seeds too. And I think everyone should. And they're easier to start than tomatoes.
I love that you call them San Marzano tomatoes, because in my Italian household, we just call them gravy tomatoes. And we call it gravy, not sauce, because we're Italian East Coast. But yeah, turning to you, Penny, can you talk to us about giving some tips about how to find reputable sources, and talk a little bit about, tips for older adults or first-time gardeners in terms of container gardening, soil blends, water, light. So
Easy. Let me just say this. My book is essentially a garden book, but it's a garden book about one plant. But if you want to be the best gardener you can, here's all you need to know. As a gardener, you've got one job to do. Give the plant what it needs. That's your whole job. Now, what Emily and I talk about a lot is, well, what does this plant need, right? That's most of what my book is, or half of it anyway. So what a cannabis is a tall, summer growing annual. It goes from a seed to a very plant within a couple of months. So you need to give it, number one, full sun. You want to give it big, rich soil. So you're going to want to use the best quality soil. If you're going to put it into a container, you can do that in a raised bed or in ground. But nice quality soil that has a lot of nitrogen in it, full sun, and then just keep it watered. That's kind of all you need to know. So if you are interested in growing cannabis, you don't need a yard. It's great if you have one, but you don't have to have one. You can grow in a container. So especially for people who have limited space, or they're not used to lifting heavy things, no problem. You want a 15-gallon container. Grow bag is great, ones with handles. And then you're going to want to use the best quality soil you can. It's called Recipe 420, is my favorite to use. It's by E.B. Stone. It's readily available. But if you can't find that, no problem. Go to your local nursery, and they're going to tell you the right soil to put into your grow bag. You plant a plant in it. Now, a plant that is strong and well-grown and well-bred seeds is going to make your gardening the easiest that you can do. So you start with great genetics, because that will determine a lot about not just what's in the resin at the end of the year or the end of the season, but how strong that plant is going to be, how disease resistant it's going to be. I don't recommend growing from clones or rooted cuttings because they have a couple of limitations with them. So I always recommend growing from seed. It's super easy, like Emily said. If you're going to grow in a garden, a lot of older people know how to garden. Well, good. You are ahead of the game. If you've gardened, if you've grown a tomato, grown a vegetable garden, easy. It's just like growing that, but you need to make sure you give your cannabis space. So imagine a 3-foot wide circle around that plant. That's how much space you're going to need to give it. And my hot tip for growing in ground is to add compost about a week or two before you actually plant the plant. Super hot tip, worm castings. You want to add worm castings or well composted chicken or rabbit or steer manure. It's going to give your plant all that it needs to grow really well throughout the season.
I totally agree, Penny. You are completely spot on. We teach these classes together, and it's, again, everything said, Penny, it's gardening. So whether you're 100 years old or 20 years old, you can grow this plant. It's so amenable in a container, petite, 10, 15 gallons, or you want to go in the ground. It's what works for you, okay? There is no limit on your enjoyment in a sense of this plant. Don't let people tell you, oh, you're too young, too old, too big, too small, this and that about growing cannabis. It is really not fickle.
And the seeds go a long way. I was shocked. I didn't believe you, Emily. You gave me a consumer insight and tip and said, Maria, you only have to plant one or two. You're going to be the zucchini lady at giving it away to all your
Yes.
neighbors.
Oh
Talk
my
to
gosh,
us
I
a
wish
little
I
bit.
had a bag with me. I should have brought a bag over here. You're going to get full disclosure with my home garden. I am a benign neglect kind of gardener. And having now worked for years with folks across the country that are somewhat benign neglect gardeners as well, I can say with data, pound to pound and a half of dried flour. I mean, you become, the zucchini lady, because you have a pound. It is like a pound, a massive amount of flour. You will never, you buy grams, ounces at your dispensary. You are now getting pounds of this stuff. So one plant is for like your whole family, like it's like an entire bounty.
I was shocked at the yield.
Yeah, no special stuff, no babysitting this plant, no elite extreme genetics, no pro setup, no optimal environment, bat guano, sunlight by the moon, whatever. I mean, it is put the plant in the ground with the nutrients you would for a tomato at the right time of the year, and you walk away.
And what Penny said, just give it what it needs. Now, we're not bad-mouthing the art and the science to it, but that's where these ladies have done that for us. So now you get it delivered to your door, and for the consumer insights and tips, and for more of those, they offer workshops. So can you tell us a little bit about the workshops that you give? And I believe, Emily, that you even during the season, the growing season, and at 420, you've got a lot of exciting things additional events that you do in Los Angeles. So tell us a little bit about the workshops, where you give them. I know in the Bay Area and in the Southern Cal area. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so they're sponsored by the USDA, and in giving these workshops with Penny over the last 2 years, we've really come to appreciate there's this sort of community celebration of cannabis that we want to help organize. So in addition to our gardening workshops and medicinal herb workshops and DIY edibles classes, we are kind of helping organize Cannabis Week. And the idea is it's an exploration of the plant. You can go to an event and you can, pick up seeds and get gardening. Like, that's very fun. But you can also maybe go to a plant-friendly yoga event, or we're having a pet parade and wellness market at Benny Boy Brewing on 420 weekend on Sunday. And it's about celebrating wellness and pets getting access to CBD for their various conditions that are veterinarian approved in a very practical, information-based way. That sort of helps destigmatize it. So we're going to have a big pet parade at a brewery and have wellness practitioners there answering questions about physical therapy and massage, and have lots of giveaways. So it doesn't have to be this in the closet thing. It doesn't have to be in this dispensary thing. It doesn't have to be, let's just get really stoned and listen to music, or, parties are great, but like the idea is that people are using it and celebrating the plant in so many different ways. And we're, through our workshops, learning about all these ways, and we're just trying to help people get access. So we've got, go to cannabisweek.org. There's a bazillion events that are listed. So if you're not into high yoga, but you're into pottery, or you're into the pet parade, there's lots of different things to do. There's a big comedy night. It's just, there's so many things.
And that'll be on Sunday at 4/20/2025 at Benny's Brewery in Los Angeles. And
Benny Boy Brewing, yep.
Benny Boy Brewing. And you can meet Emily. Now to meet Penny. Penny, tell us a little bit about the workshops that you and Emily give throughout the year, and where they are. And
Emily and I, so when Emily and I teach, we realize that we're both gardeners, and where do gardeners go to get stuff? Well, they go to nurseries. But until Emily and I put a couple of intellectual things together and spoke with one nursery here in the Bay Area, we convinced them to let us come and give a class on how to grow cannabis in the garden. It's in the Bay Area, so people were already doing so. And they knew that. But they also were able to sell Emily's seeds in the nursery. So Emily and I have been starting with one and now dozens, 20s, 25 nurseries. We go to local nurseries and we show up. We teach everyday gardeners in a nursery setting how to grow cannabis in the garden. We talk about containers, raised beds, in ground, how to grow it, when to grow it, how tall it grows, how to manage the very few pests that it might give. People are able to learn. They're able to buy the soil amendment that they need, the bags, and most importantly, for the first time ever, Emily and I are able to sell her fine quality seeds in a nursery. Before Emily and I put these two pieces together, gardeners would go to a nursery to buy everything else, and they'd have to go to a dispensary or an online resource to get seeds. So we teach in nurseries, which is exactly where we should be teaching. We've had to tell a lot of new stories, though, about this plant. There's a lot of hesitation in the somewhat conservative nursery world about letting us come in and teach about this plant, but we've gotten overwhelmingly positive reception. We've had up to maybe 50 people at a nursery that there we taught a class 2 weekends ago. We've got weekends coming up, and we'll be teaching in San Francisco, throughout the Bay Area, and back in Los Angeles again. And then here's the cool part: it doesn't end with growing, because Harvest has a whole other section of classes in the Los Angeles area, in the Bay Area, and our goal is to make this available throughout the nation. Wouldn't it be cool if we could get this throughout the entire nation? We got to get people growing this plant in the garden, and then they're gonna go, wait, this isn't a scary plant. Those stories that I was told really weren't very true. And I think that we're going to snowball it in the right direction if we can convince people to grow this plant in the garden, and then they use it. And then, by the way, come holiday gift time, you're going to be the most popular gift giver in your whole community. It is the best thing you can trade for. If somebody's got lemons, well, guess what you've got? You've got quality home grow.
And Penny and Emily, we'll start with Penny. What do you do with this quality homegrown? What are some of the things you make with it, and how do you use it? And Emily, and then we'll come to you, because I know that you've got you have a great dog treat recipe to add some of the flour, and we even did a video of that. But Penny, what are some of the ways that you use it? And
yeah, I teach this through another company that I co-founded called Wondering About Weed. We're all about teaching grown-ups how to use cannabis and to how to enjoy it. So I like to say that I use cannabis all day long, and I'm rarely stoned. Now let me elaborate that a little bit. So
have you had cannabis today?
Yes, every morning. I wake up.
Me too.
Wow, you don't look stoned. Well, guess what? Because I'm not. Let me tell you, one of the cheap things I do with it is that I make a tincture. Tincture is just it's just moving the good stuff in the flower on the cannabis into alcohol, and then you can take it. So every morning I take a raw tincture that has both THCA and CBDA in it. So that's the first thing I do. And I'm often...
You just put the raw leaf in the water? You infuse the water yourself?
Yeah, the raw cannabis flower bud.
Oh, the flower bud, not the leaf.
Yeah, flower bud in alcohol, a high alcohol. And this
could have had a V8.
This is where my book has more about gardening. It also tells you how to make 3 key extractions. The first one is in an alcohol-based tincture. Super important. You can precisely dose it. It's available at all times. Second, my second way that I use cannabis daily is in a salve. Now, a salve is a place where it's just a fat-based topical. That's my own magic salve. And I throw a whole bunch of cannabinoids in it. In this case, I'm using THC and CBD, but in a whole full spectrum RSO or cannabis concentrate. It just works magic. And again, the cannabinoids do not get into the blood system. They don't make it to my brain. It's incredibly helpful at localized pain and inflammation. And then I also make cannabis oil. I'll often put this in little chocolates that I'll eat at night to help me go to sleep, whatever. And then the last thing you can do with it is inhale it. So instead of rolling a joint, I like using a whole flower vape. My favorite is made by Mighty Plus. It's the Mighty Plus by Stores and Bickle, but PAX makes them as well. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do with it. You can bake with it. You can put it in drinks. You can make little treats and enjoy it as you need. So I'm in charge of the plant after it gives me what it so generously offers.
So Emily, what are some of the uses you use it for personally?
Personally, I would say everyone in my life requires the CBD salve from Penny's book. I have to make that in very large quantity for everyone, from 20-year-olds in my family running marathons to 93-year-old my grandma with arthritis. So the CBD salve, and then now mixing in some THC with the salve to help people with additional pain relief, is the most frequently made product in my house from the plant. So personally, I use THC to sleep. It helps me with my inflammation and pain. And I found that for me, THCA, so the raw form of, it's the raw form, let's just call it that, of THC in the plant, actually for use during the day, really helps with my energy, my inflammation, and my pain. So it actually kind of gives me an up when I use THCA personally. So that's kind of how I use it. And the way I like to consume it, I have very damaged lungs from cancer, basically. And I like an edible. I've been making these little mints in classes now. I'm teaching these classes, and the classes started because everyone in my life now also wants the mints. So it's the CBD salve, and now it's the mints. And you can make the mints using the tincture formulas in Penny's book to do a THCA mint, a CBD mint, or a THC mint. So you can make all the different kinds. Yeah. And once you have the tincture, you just go from there. And now that I can make these mints for folks, now everyone in my life wants the mints. So I'm like a candy manufacturer in my kitchen. And now we're teaching classes on it too, because it turns out I talked to our gardeners about it, and they're like, oh, I want to make the mints too. So now we're teaching people how to make these little candies that are so portable, very low dose. And who doesn't like a little mint in the car, when they're on their way somewhere? It like freshens your breath. It's nice. And they can be very low dose, whichever cannabinoid you want, and they're easy to make and require very little equipment. So those are really my top go-tos. I don't, like I said, I can't smoke. It doesn't work for my lungs.
Sure.
So that's why I take it and supply everyone in my life with salve and now candies, basically.
Yes. And if you can't smoke, what Penny talked about, the dry herb vaporizer, we have them at Green Bee Life by Stores and Bickle. Stores and Bickle is one of the premier great brand, and a dry herb vaporizer if you're going to go that route. But thank you for sharing that with us. I'm just so inspired that you are a cancer survivor, and I knew you before, I knew you after, and you haven't missed a beat, my friend. So
thanks, Maria.
And-
yeah, I'll say, and I was even as a pot farmer, myself, and coming from a very liberal household, like we talked about this episode, I was very hesitant to start personally using cannabis. I thought, oh, I don't need this and I'll be fine. And I see it has these health benefits, but I'm okay. And then once I kind of let myself experience the plant and learn what worked for me, I was like, wow. And it really, even for me, not having the stigma, talking to gardeners who were coming to me saying, hey, I want to grow this plant because I want to get high, or I need to treat my Crohn's disease, for whatever the reasons were. And I just kept getting story after story after story from these folks across the country of all different ages. Like I said, from 20 to 100, people want to use this plant for different reasons once they feel they can, and that it's affordable and accessible. So I think it was really even just doing my work and seeing how much it helped so many people that I kind of let myself get helped by the plant as well. So, don't think it doesn't have to be a big deal, and you're not alone. If you look at the pictures on our Instagram, the classes that Penny and I teach, people of all ages, all backgrounds, using it for all different reasons. So don't feel like you're alone in this, or that, you have to take it a certain way, or it should be easy for you. You know, it wasn't easy for me to start using cannabis medicinally. So there's a big community of people you don't even know about that now Penny and I know about because we chat with them. You know, it's totally your Presbyterian Church Bridge Club ladies. You know, like there are people in your life that you don't even know that are benefiting from cannabis in their life, whether it's, you know, medicinal, recreational, however you want to call it. So don't feel alone. It doesn't have to be this big thing.
And that's why going to your workshops are so empowering. I mean, they're limited to California at this point in time, but what I was thrilled to hear was that you're doing them online as well, opening them up. So you have them online as well. So, right, so people can visit growitfromhome.com. That's growitfromhome.com or pennybarthel.com/events. Penny, Penny, Barthel, BARTHEL.com. Now, all of this information is going to be on our show page. So we've got so many resources to provide from both of you because you're both prolific and you put out wonderful, wonderful, wonderful information and content, and you're empowering. And we're coming up to the 5-minute warning on this show. And I'm telling you, we could have gone on and on and on. I really want to have both of you back. We could do a whole hour spotlighting your products. Penny, your book, The Cannabis Gardener. It's available on Amazon, pennybarthel.com. Emily, Grow It From Home, your seeds, your plants. You have other wonderful, wonderful products on there.
And the same thing, you know, the other thing too, we covered, like we've talked a lot about gardening and DIY and how empowering it is to take control of kind of the plant for economic reasons, health reasons. We'll say too, you don't have to do it all. You know, if you don't want to start seeds, order plants. If you want to first try topicals with CBD, order some salve flower, you know, from our website and make your own salve. Or, you know, get Penny's book as a primer. You don't have to cook every recipe in the book. That's okay. I cooked every recipe in your book, Penny. Full disclosure, I need to, but I haven't. Okay. So even if you don't cook every recipe in the book, get the book, read through it. You know, if you're more comfortable starting off purchasing something and having that be kind of your entry point, it's okay. You don't have to do it all, everybody. You know, we're just trying to give you the tools, whether you want to start from a seed, a plant, or buy flower, or just come to a workshop and make edibles with us. It's okay. That's the point.
And
everything.
And you can grow it purely as a conversation starter. You don't even have to consume it. You can
have so many gardeners. That's the other funny thing I learned recently. So many people we work with don't grow for themselves. They grow because it's a cool plant, because they can, and it's been illegal, or because they have a friend, a neighbor, somebody else that they want to gift it to. They don't even use it themselves, or they need it for their dog. They make treats for their dog. Like they do not require it personally, but they want to grow it and give it as a bountiful thing. And
and that's how I got my start growing. Exactly that. Is that I helped a friend grow it for her friend who had cancer. We had a hilariously bad luck that year, but still cannabis is resilient. And I do have friends who just like growing the herb. They don't really use it a whole lot, but isn't that cannabis creates community? It is a plant that's so generous that if you grow one plant, maybe your friend grows a different type, you can trade. You can then, maybe you're a really great cook, and so you can get into your kitchen and you can make a tincture or something like that. You can trade. I've got a friend who I make little custom dosed chocolates for him, and he's a wine collector. So he offers me wine. We trade. It's just, I love how it creates community. And we share from each other. There is never a class that Emily and I teach where I don't learn something from the people who come. How are you using it? Why do you care? There was a woman who came, well, she had had a traumatic brain injury. 3 of them, in fact, so it was helping her. Another one, helping her get back into life with CBD and the anti-inflammatory effects there. People with essential tremor disorder, people who have skin rashes. eczema. A person came, she's like, I cannot wait to make this into a salve for my skin. Do I have to wait until the fall after it's dried? And I said, no, buy some of Emily's fine quality CBD flower. It's a huge bargain compared to buying salves or buying it at a dispensary. So there's just tons of flexibility.
Yep, and it's quality. They always say, make it when it comes. I come back to the Italian Sunday gravy. Make it Progresso or make it yourself. Make it from Emily, grow it from home, or grow it yourself. But guys, we're gonna have to wrap. I'm gonna have you back. As we wrap up today's show. 50 is the new 420. And by the way, I've been to your workshops and I'm so impressed. I mean, there's more senior citizens there, I would say, at least the ones I attended, than the non-senior citizens. But we've taken quite the journey. We've looked back at a time when cannabis, you couldn't even say it. You had to use code 420. It was shared in secret. There was stigma was the rule, not the exception. And, we've reflected on a generation that helped shape the counterculture. And now they're returning to cannabis, not to relive the past, but to reclaim, as I said, the wellness, the connection, and the clarity. And plants evolved to something, you could proudly plant it, cultivate it, and share it. If you're in a state that's legal, got to check down to your county. That's another show. But whether it's in your garden, your gummies, or your gratitude practice. And now I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the listeners. I want to know what 420, what does that mean to you today? And is it a memory? Is it a turning point? Is it a ritual? Tag us on social media, share your stories, or drop a comment on the episode page at greenbeelife.com/just say no. And you'll find today's resources there, including links to Penny's book, The Cannabis Gardener, Emily's Grow It From Home links. She's got top shelf, premium, lab tested, really, really quality products. And there's on our site a full library of educational content, curated tools, and cannabis and insights. So whether you're here to grow, to learn, to consume, or to share, Green Bee Life is your hive for cannabis clarity and community. Because cannabis, it isn't about getting high. It's about getting well, being informed, and living fully. And here on Just Say No, where curiosity is queen, we'll always keep it real and relevant and rooted in truth. Ladies, I hope you will come back. This has been just fantastic. Everybody, if you're in the Los Angeles area on 420, be sure to go down to Emily. It's called Benny's Brewery.
Benny Boy Brewing. Really check out cannabisweek.org. So cannabisweek.org, and that's where all the events are. There's a ton of events that are happening. The Benny Boy Brewing event is my personal favorite because I'm going to get to run a dog parade and hand out CBD puppuccino treats. I just found out they're called chill puppuccinos or something, like little CBD puppuccinos, like from Starbucks. They're going to bring them to hand out, and that's my personal
puppuccino. Yes, Starbucks does that. All right.
Dog, so like that's my personal favorite. But there's like yoga, there's a comedy night, there's intentional sound bath work, like pottery. I mean, it's just wonderful. So cannabisweek.org, find your flavor of fun. Lots of it's out there.
All right. And people can find that on growitfromhome.com as well on your events. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I look forward to having you back. Everybody, happy, healthy, safe 420. That's also my birthday, but that's another episode. That I put the 5 and the 50 is the new 420, but it's really 60. Shh. All right, guys, taking it out. Just Say No is a Green Bee Life presentation airing live weekly on Friday afternoons from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on KCA Radio and KCAA TV. Archived audio episodes are on Green Bee Life, greenbeelife.com, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and most third-party major platforms. For archived videos, check them out on GBL TV on Green Bee Life, YouTube, and Rumble. To follow us, our Instagram and Facebook is at Just Say No Radio. To apply to be a guest on the show or for sponsorship and advertising opportunities, go to greenbeelife.com/Just Say No, and feel free to reach out to me, Maria, for any questions. I'm at maria@greenbeelife.com or call me at 818-758-6925.